Hello, this educational video is brought to you by the Colorado HOA Information and Resource Center. The topic of this video presentation is the initial board member duties. Review and be familiar with the association documents for the community. The information provided during this presentation is for educational purposes only and is not meant to provide or to be construed as legal advice. Any legal questions should be directed to your attorney. Review and be familiar with the association documents for the community. It is important to know and understand the covenants, rules, and regulations that govern your HOA. Covenant and rule enforcement are some of the biggest sources of contention in HOAs. By knowing the covenants, rules, and procedures of your association, you can help avoid problems that may be very costly or jeopardize your relationships with other members of your HOA. An HOA has a number of documents that it follows on behalf of the association. We will now cover these corporate documents. Articles of Incorporation. The Articles of Incorporation are filed with the state that the HOA is registered and essentially define the legal name, address, and corporate status of the HOA. It also has provisions that define some of the functions of the association as well. Nearly all HOAs in Colorado are registered as nonprofit corporations. Bylaws. The bylaws are terms that define how the HOA is going to function as a corporation. Bylaws can name who will be directing certain aspects of the HOA's responsibilities. Bylaws will determine the number of their directors, frequency of elections, and any other procedures that are specific to the HOA. Important bylaw provisions. In Section 3833.3306 of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, also known as Kiowa, that statute sets forth a number of important provisions to be contained in the bylaws. Mandated bylaw provisions include the number of members of the executive board and the titles of the officers of the association, election by the executive board of a president, a treasurer, a secretary, and any other officers of the association the bylaws specify. The qualifications, powers, and duties of the board members. Also included in the bylaws are the terms of office and the manner of electing and removing executive board members and officers, and the manner of filling vacancies for those positions. Also, which, if any, of its powers the executive board or officers may delegate to other persons or to a managing agent. The bylaws should also include a method for amending the bylaw documents. Also, which of its officers may prepare, execute, certify, and record amendments to the declaration on behalf of the association. As an additional bylaw requirement, if an association with 30 or more units delegates powers of the executive board or officers relating to collection, deposit, transfer, or disbursement of association funds to other persons or to a managing agent, the bylaws of the association shall require some insurance. The other person or managing agent that has been delegated the powers over association funds must maintain fidelity insurance coverage or a bond in an amount not less than $50,000 or such higher amount as the executive board may require. In addition, that other person or managing agent must maintain all funds and accounts of the association separate from the funds and accounts of other associations managed by the other person or managing agent, and maintain all reserve accounts of each association so managed separate from the operational accounts of the association. Finally, an annual accounting for association funds and a financial statement must be prepared and presented to the association by that managing agent, a public accountant, or a certified public accountant. Another set of corporate documents includes organizational meeting minutes. The HOA Corporation also has a first set of minutes confirming the formation of the entity, approving the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws, and establishing the initial board of directors and officers for the HOA. Next, we have governing documents of the HOA. There are a number of governing documents that the association utilizes. Let's go over these important documents. The first set of governing documents is the Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions, also known as CC&Rs. Section 3833.3205 of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, also known as Kiowa, sets forth what must be included in the CC&Rs. The Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions is a document stating the division of power along with the rights and responsibilities between the HOA and its members. CC&Rs usually contain provisions related to assessment obligations of its members, association and member maintenance responsibilities, architectural control powers, association enforcement authority, dispute resolution, property use restrictions, and insurance requirements. They are drafted and recorded with the county clerk and recorder in the county where the HOA is located at the time the HOA is created. Rules and regulations. The operating rules and regulations are developed by the board of the HOA to determine how the day-to-day procedures will operate in the HOA. Topics of these rules can be numerous and may range from architectural specifications, clubhouse and swimming pool rules, to parking, pets, and the upkeep of one's unit in the HOA. The HOA governing document hierarchy is important to every HOA. While each document has an important purpose, some will take priority over the others. HOA governing documents are put in place to control the operation of the association along with the common interest development that the HOA was formed to manage. Sometimes, though, provisions within the same document may conflict with each other. In these cases, certain interpretation by a court may be needed to resolve these conflicts. Typically, the laws and documents that are included in this hierarchy are the federal, state, and local laws, the CC&Rs, the Articles of Incorporation, the bylaws, and the rules and regulations. With several extensive documents providing a framework for an HOA, some priority needs to be established. The higher the document is in the hierarchy, the more authority it usually has, with some exceptions. Financial documents and statements. An HOA has a number of financial documents that are used in the operation of the association's business. Let's go over these documents. The operating budget. An operating budget is a forecast of the revenues and expenses expected for one or more future periods. An operating budget is typically formulated by the HOA board or management just prior to the beginning of the year and shows expected activity levels for the entire year. The balance sheet. A balance sheet is a statement of the financial position of the association that lists the assets, liabilities, and association's equity at a particular point in time. In other words, the balance sheet illustrates the business's net worth. The income statement. An income statement is one of the association's core financial statements that shows its profit and loss. The statement shows the association's ability to collect income, which are the dues, and manage expenses over a period of time. The statement of receivables. The accounts receivables statement is a document that itemizes all invoices, payments, and credits created during a specific time period and reminds the association of their account status. Bank statements. A bank statement is a list of all transactions for a bank account over a set period, usually monthly. The statement includes deposits, charges, withdrawals, as well as the beginning and ending balance for the period. The general ledger shows all activity into or out of each account. A general ledger is a complete record of all the financial transactions of the association throughout its life. The general ledger holds all of the information needed to prepare financial statements and includes assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, and expenses. Financial review or audit. A review provides a limited assurance rather than a reasonable amount of assurance. So in simple terms, a review reports on the plausibility of the financial statements. An audit provides a reasonable level of assurance in the form of a positive statement, such as presents fairly or presents a true and fair view of the financials. Reserve account financial statements and information. These financial documents contain information about the association's reserve funds, which are those monies set aside for more costly repairs and replacement. The operating account. The operating fund, as its name states, is used for keeping up with day-to-day expenses and maintenance of the association's assets. On this slide, we have some important laws that pertain to HOAs that all board members should be aware of. The Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, also known as Kiowa, the Colorado Revised Nonprofit Corporation Act, the Colorado Condominium Ownership Act, and then we have some fair housing laws, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the Colorado Fair Housing Act. This has been an educational presentation from the HOA Information and Resource Center. Following this presentation, you will find a short quiz and some HOA resources. Thank you for watching.